It's early days yet, but these are my comments, my initial observations on the electoral results. We can already see the direction of travel in these results. There's great success for Reform, seemingly across the board. Very poor results for Labour and the Conservatives, both of whom have lost seats, lost wards to Reform. The method of campaigning, though, in this election has been unusual. There are new things emerging and emerging strongly. They're, I think, unconnected, but at the time, this time, I think they're both effective and worrying. Sectarianism and hatred have grown, animosity and so on, dividing the country and introducing issues, I think, unconnected with the UK itself, such as Pakistan and Gaza. Reform's fireworks and stardust approach have introduced a showmanship to politics which, I fear, whilst interesting, masks the actual political issues at stake. And then there's the fact that the electorate seem even more unaware or careless of the difference between national and local government politics and policies. That's largely the result of declining standards in education, where such things aren't taught any longer in our schools. And that's been exacerbated by some parties actively campaigning on national issues rather than those that these elections at local level influence. And the blurring of these lines, I think, is incredibly bad for local democracy and the good governance of our districts and counties and local communities. There's an increasingly US approach to campaigning being deployed, and I think this creates increasing division and tribalism and possibly feeds into the above concerns that I've got. But anyway, what we do know already is that Reform have put both Labour and the Conservatives on notice. So far, as of from 9:10 in the morning UK time, Reform has won more council seats than any of the other two big parties, taking wards from both. But whatever the final results, Reform's amazing successes are a damning indictment of Labour and its absolutely insane net zero policies, its appalling record on channel migrants and on immigration, and its ridiculous hike in national insurance, which is costing everybody, it's causing businesses to close down. Likewise, the poor performance of the Conservatives in these elections is demonstrating already that the party is still far too vanilla. It's out of touch. It's failing to convince the electorate that it is at all credible on the issues that matter to the public. And the Tories still quite clearly have not woken up to the fact that the likes of Cameron, May, Gove, Green, and what I think are the totally fraudulently and misleadingly named One Nation caucus are going to destroy the Conservative Party if the party's not careful. And I think a new form of patriotic conservatism of the sort represented by Robert Jenrick is their only way out of the mess for the Conservatives. Regarding other parties, I think, as I say, the results are sort of coming in and it's all fairly clear that the other parties, the Lib Dems, they're a particular community who seem not to have any particular significance in government, but have a loyal following. And there's not much change there. Greens are like the Lib Dems. UKIP, the Heritage Party, Workers' Party, Reclaim and others, they have a niche following, but again, are of no particular note in parliamentary or local elections. I think, however, the SDP stands out a little bit. It's growing quietly and steadily, although not yet an electoral threat. And it's showing far more depth and thoughtfulness in its policies than many other parties, probably all other parties, and shows a great promise. And if it were able to project more into the public awareness, it could do well. But it's worth noting that many of Reform's headline policies and straplines are very clearly plagiarised from the SDP, with whom Reform had a limited electoral pact in the 2024 general election. And clearly they've learnt some lessons from the SDP there. But my conclusion overall is that we've got 4 more years until the next general election. And there's more than enough time for Reform to drop the ball, quite possible, for Labour to reverse course, which is extremely unlikely, for the Conservatives to start projecting true and credible patriotic conservatism, but that's only possible if Robert Jenrick does take over the leadership and can unite the party behind him, which is a tall ask, or for the SDP to break through Reform's noise and break into public awareness, which is extremely difficult, but possible. And I think we can all safely assume, though, that the next government, formed in 2029, will be a Labour, Reform or Conservative one. So it's all to play for. But as they say, a week is a long time in politics. So 4 years makes for a very long game indeed.